welcome to the Republic of Middle-Aged Men. As usual, you have your three hosts. You have myself, Timothy. You have Lachlan.
Howdy.
And Ruben.
G'day.
So, gentlemen, after last week's failure to not keep up with tradition by myself, I'm going to start with, what are we drinking tonight? We've actually been hanging out for quite a while on already, so I've already had a big cup of tea. But what I'm drinking now is some mead. Which is warm and yummy because it's winter here. What are you drinking there, Lachlan?
I'm on the red wines tonight. So I have a nice Barossa Shiraz from 2013 that's keeping me company for the evening.
Yum.
It's very good indeed.
And I hear it makes impulse buys happen.
Only when we're looking at books on Amazon.
Yeah, you know that we're like become boring in our middle age when, a wild night out is drinking too much and ordering too many books on Amazon.
Yeah, hanging out with my buddies online, buying books and drinking.
See, I know guys who are older than us by a lot, and when they misbehave, it's like, oh, I bought another motorbike online.
Yeah.
For us, it's like, oh, I bought a book. Dear, oh dear. How about you, Ruben? What are you drinking there?
I got red wine too. I've got a Spanish Tempranillo, which I've had one other time before, but I quite like it. It's good.
Dun, 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 dun. Spanish vino. That's good. Well, delicious. So tonight's a bit different. We're going to just casually chat about our thoughts about the Enchiridion that we finished last week, and then we will discuss what's coming next. So, what did you think about the Enchiridion? I'll start with you, Ruben. I'll mix it up a bit. What are your? Let's start with an overall score, perhaps out of 5.
Well, that's tough, but what are they, stars?
Sure.
Are they stars or peanuts or
potatoes?
Potatoes. What about dusty sandals?
Crocs. Yeah.
Crocs. I don't know. I'll probably give it a 3 out of 5. Dusty Crocs.
3 out of 5 dusty Crocs. How about you, Lachlan? What's your out of 5 dusty Crocs score?
Yeah, fair call. I'd be about the same, I reckon.
A 3 out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I give it almost a 4. I think part of that is it's an easy read, and it's
sure.
You can pick it up, read a little bit, and put it down. Which, for me, with kids and family and many other things going on, that's handy. So that certainly, I did like that format, and I liked the content. A lot of it was practical that I got out of the book. So yeah, I think I'll give it 4 out of 5. Crocs, dusty Crocs.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for the format. It literally translates Enchiridion to handbook, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It's something that's a bit more short and snappy and to the point, so you can kind of, get straight to the gold rather than sort of ferreting through it like maybe we did on the Republic, where you're sort of digging through to find the good stuff. I mean, there's plenty of good stuff in there anyway, so we weren't digging too hard. But in some ways, I actually missed the long form. Whilst it's more time and it's harder to fit in sometimes, like to sort of get the reading done and then be sort of thinking about it, making your notes and all that sort of stuff. But I think I liked. I probably would have scored it higher maybe if we were sort of getting it in the context of the discourses, where you're getting some more of the background of where that learning's coming from. You know what I mean? I mentioned to you guys before the show, I actually went and bought the copy of the discourses so I could read through that, because I found this really interesting as well, but I want to see some of the context around where it's coming from as well, because I know there's been a couple of times we've been reading through things, and I think, you know what, I think I'm thinking too literally about this. And if I maybe understood the context a little bit better of what was leading to that sort of moment, it might make more sense to me, if you know what I mean.
It's also, I do, and maybe that's why I give it a slightly higher score, because I've read a lot of Stoic philosophy over the years. Maybe I kind of got what he was getting at already a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's something that contributed.
Yeah, look, I think you could still. There's still plenty I got out of it. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it's just sometimes it felt a bit jarring or harsh on a few things. I was like, how do we land here? Because it's just interesting.
Do you mean like the don't grieve if you lose a kid things, or?
Yeah, or I can't remember. It's like about like losing a jug and then losing your wife, and like it's the same thing. Like
maybe it was poorly translated. Maybe he was saying losing jugs and losing the wife. And it's like,
there you go. Hey yo.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
struck
one. Gonna go see Min soon. How about you, Rubes? What did you get out of it?
I just on the scoring, I gave it I think content wise, like practicality, yeah, it's really good. And as a handbook, I think it probably would score higher than that. But when I say 3 out of 5, I just mean in terms of entertainment, like as a book more broadly. And I didn't enjoy reading it like I did something like The Republic. But just for all the reasons that you guys just said, it's not supposed to be read in that same way. It's not. That's just not what it is. So, in some sense, my score is probably not fair. But you put me on the spot. So.
No, but it is fair. It's like, I certainly agree. I think there's more enjoyment in reading The Republic than there is in reading this. But I feel like there's more tools that I walked away with from this than what I walked away with from The Republic. So, yeah, it's more practical.
And I too, I think, struggled a bit in the same way that Lachlan did. He would say things, and I'm like, that's really interesting, but I'd love to see what you're basing that on, because that's a very strong claim, that sort of stuff. So, whereas with the Republic, by the time, generally speaking, by the time Socrates comes to a conclusion, you've got the whole backstory. Probably too much backstory.
Do you reckon
when he's taking you through that whole like Socratic reasoning to get there, like that's the whole point, right? Like that he's done this big setup so you could take that leap at the end, because you've come with him through that journey already.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. But you're not supposed to get that out of this, out of a handbook. So I guess
sure.
It's not fair to say that it's not there, because it's not supposed to be.
Do you reckon this is the philosophical equivalent of TikTok? I feel like that's what it is. It's like very, very short and sharp, like little points. Yep. Like you could take a section out of this and just bang, put it on. You could make a TikTok for most of the passages in this, knock it over in 30 seconds, the main point. I don't think you could do that with anything in the Republic.
We couldn't knock anything over in 30 seconds. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe dogs are philosophers too. Maybe you could argue that in 30 seconds, but...
Yeah, not the way Socrates does, you couldn't.
Yeah. By the way, I've decided that over the next couple of months, I'm going to try and re-listen to all of our episodes and write down all the t-shirt ideas we had. Because I reckon we've had about 10.
They're all terrible, but we had 10.
I reckon there's got to be a good one in there somewhere.
Trademark.
Okay, what was... let's ask two questions here, but I'll ask it in two parts. So, Lachlan, first to you. What was your least favourite thing in the book? Like the thing that you were just like, nope.
Look, I think I'd be sort of... I'd be a foot each way on it, to be honest. I say it's like, maybe it's my least favourite, but it's still not like terrible. But he spoke a lot about death in this book. It was a really strong reoccurring theme I found through it. And I think, again, like that was just something I did sort of find sort of jarring in there. But at the same time, sort of stepping back from it, I could see the logic of why he probably hammered that home, because at that point in time, death was a fairly common occurrence, right? And it's something a lot of people would have had to get to grips with. So it was probably quite practical advice. I mean, it's something no one avoids, right? So
Yeah.
it's going around us at all times. Um, but you know, it did sound a bit cold at times, and I sort of found that a bit hard to gel with. Um, there's some similar kind of themes around sort of compassion as well, which was kind of like, there's some passage about, you can, wail with somebody who's experiencing, some loss like that, but don't get too kind of caught up in it. I think was kind of the thing, which, that it's probably fair, but sometimes it just felt a bit cold. That's all.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it's that's about the only one I could kind of put a pin on. I reckon most of the other stuff I have to say is pretty practical, pretty good. But even that, you could still take something from it, and it's just like, how literal do you want to take that? And it's just, maybe it's a little bit more about, hey, just remember that death is a natural sort of state, and I think I did actually make a note of one of those passages. Where it was talking about, this was back in passage 11, which was, never say of anything I lost it, but say I gave it back. Has your child died? It was given back. Has your wife died? She was given back. When they talk about your estate and all that sort of stuff, but I think if you talk about it in the sense of like religion or something, that might actually give you some comfort, because you sort of give them back to God or something like that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think there's still positives to be pulled from that, even though it's probably my least favorite thing from it, if you know what I mean.
That's interesting. Before I hand over to Ruben, like that's like my favorite part of the book. So, yeah, there you go. All right, Ruben, for you, least
No,
favorite bit.
I think once again my least favorite bit was just like having the conclusions without the journey to get there, which is not, you can't criticize it for that, because as we pointed out, it's a handbook. You're not supposed to have all that background stuff.
All right. For me, least favorite. Yeah, I it's that jarringness of that coldness of just, and the comparison of a very, very unimportant material thing to a very significant relationship person, and that there should be a similar reaction, is probably the part where I'm like, I feel like it's a bridge too far. But like this week I went to a funeral for someone who I cared about very much, and one of the things I did think through was like, is this in accordance with nature? And I was like, it is. It doesn't mean it's good, but it's not like, it's not in accordance with nature. And so I didn't find it comforting, but I was just like, oh, it's something that does happen, and there'll be a process attached to that, of that I need to grieve, and that everyone else will need to grieve, and I'm going to miss that person. But I'm thankful for the time that I had, and I need to reflect on the fact that other people I care about, they're not going to be around forever either. So I need to make sure that every day I do the best I can with those relationships, and make the most of each day. So use that as an opportunity to grieve, but also to be thankful for other people. So I found it helpful in that way. So
I think it's a good way to look at it, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Favorite bit, Lachlan.
I quite liked some of the themes around not focusing, I guess, on stuff and the trappings of wealth, or the facade of kind of like showing off and that kind of stuff. Um, Obviously, Epictetus is like a big sort of fanboy for Socrates, so fully embraced that style of life where it was kind of like trying to just keep things simple. Do you have what you need? Then that should be enough. And why do you want and want and want? And I just thought it was just something that's like super relevant for modern culture we're in, where everything's so disposable. Uh, Social media is just kind of like rampant in people trying to show off their best life or whatever
Yeah.
it is for people watching, and it's not reality, it's whatever they're trying to present as reality. And it's like, why are we doing that? It's just insane. um, and so I just appreciated, I think, that kind of dispelling that modern myth. I mean, it's obviously not a modern myth because it's the same thing back then, right? Going
Yeah.
back 2,000 years, humans have been doing this kind of thing, like who's got the fanciest horse or whatever, before people had cars. It's the same sort of deal, right? You're taking pride in the horse, and, the horse should have pride, but, well, why are you so, hung up about how good looking your horse is?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that appealed to me, I think. Maybe I'm not going to quite go down to, Socrates rocking up in his Crocs for a handout at the banquet, but, I think there's something to be said for a simple life. And I must say, I am challenging myself a little bit more on that. I think it's a good thing to think of. Do you really need that?
Yeah.
Probably not, is
100%.
the answer.
Yeah. Thanks, man. How about you, Rubes? Favorite bit?
Yeah, I really liked the underlying theme of not letting things that are outside your control affect you. I think that's a really powerful idea. I think it becomes less relevant for things that, like, for major events. Like, I mean, if your house burns down and you had a real material loss, then I'm probably not quite as so on board um, with Epictetus, particularly once, like you were pointing out too, like with the loss of a family member. But I mean more generally when he's talking about other people's opinions, like why would you let other people's opinions or things like that? I think there was a quote in there about the corner or something, like the idea that you would let
Mm.
those things that are outside your control really affect you. And I think that's also really relevant today because you see it, you see it in social media, you see it in current affairs, and people get really upset about this opinion or that opinion or this news or that news. When you do step back a little bit and just kind of go, I don't know these people. Why would I?
Mm.
Why would I put my own psychological and um, well-being in their hands? I think that's a really, really poignant thing to point out. I think so. I think he nailed it all the way back then. I do. I think that's also a really useful tool.
I think that's
Hmm.
spot on too, mate. I mean, how fired up do people get about opinions on the internet? Holy moly!
Yeah,
Like,
big time.
ugh, people like will just go to town and will not let stuff go, and it's just why? Who
Yeah.
Yeah,
cares? Someone's
100%.
got an opinion. Everyone's got an opinion. Like,
Yeah, and we're all guilty of it, but I think
yeah,
it's a really useful tool. But even like in the like the intermediate sort of thing in between your house burning down and someone saying something you don't like, but even like in the middle there somewhere where you've got, like, things can happen to you at work, or things can happen just with your life in general. But when there really is nothing you can do about it, what is the point of having it drag you down?
totally.
It's not gonna make you deal with the situation any better. But I do think
Mm.
the secret there is it really out of your control? Because there's a risk. I do think there's a risk there in kind of going, oh, I can't control that. I'm just going to forget about it. Because look, let's face it. Sometimes, particularly when you're talking about a relationship, there probably are things you can do. um, but more generally, that's why I say things like current affairs or someone's opinion.
Yeah.
You're not going to change their opinion. You can't do anything about that. You can't let that haunt you. So yeah, that was probably the bit I liked the most.
Yeah, nice. My favourite quote is that one that you talked about before, Lachlan. But there's so much gold in this book. So everything that you said, Ruben, completely agree with. The thing I've been using as a tool a lot, which I mentioned before, is that is it in accordance with nature? I've been finding that that's helping me be a lot more patient. So, for example, my dog barks at stupid things sometimes out in the yard, and I start getting angry at it, and then I'm like, is it in accordance with nature for my dog to bark at a bird? Yes, it is. Why am I angry at this? Like, it's in accordance with nature. Don't get angry at it. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, like, even today, I was at my parents' place, and the kids were all running around being noisy, and it started to get under my skin a little bit because I'm a bit overtired today. And I just realised, oh, hang on a minute, they're just kids having fun. Is that in accordance with nature for them to be noisy? Yes, it is. All right, so I need to remove myself from this area because they're not the problem. I'm the problem. And so I just went and gave myself a timeout for 5 minutes up with everyone else. Yeah. So I'm like, actually, it's in accordance with nature for them to be running around like that. So,
Good way to think of it, I reckon.
Yeah, but something I think I'll do as my next blog is there's a compatibility issue, and I don't want to drone on too much about this in the episode, but like Christians believe that nature has been corrupted, and so I want to explore the idea of like this idea of is it in accordance with nature versus is it in accordance with the original design, because I think if nature's sinful or corrupted, then because something's in accordance with nature doesn't necessarily mean it's good from the Christian perspective. So I want to explore that a little bit. I think I'll blog about it at some point.
That's a pretty big question, bro.
It is, but I've been chewing on it for weeks.
Yeah, right.
So I'll see how I go. But yeah, do you follow what I mean, Rubes?
No, 100%. No, yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Do you get it, Lachlan?
No.
All right, so I'll quickly.
I've got good Christians.
I'll quickly explain it. So the biblical account of creation is that God created it, and then at some point, mankind sinned against God, and then sin entered the world and corrupted the world, and so the end game for the Bible is God will create a new heaven and new earth, and that everything will be replaced basically. And that's why there's death and decay and all these problems in the world. So if something's in accordance with nature, as in nature now, then the biblical perspective could be, well, just because something's in accordance with nature doesn't mean it's in accordance with the original good design. It could be that its nature now is one that is affected by the consequences of sin, as opposed to its nature how it was intended to be prior to sin occurring.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So then the question is how. Yeah. So the question then is, I suppose, how are you supposed to view nature?
Yeah, like, and then as
supposed to be the nature if it is not what it's supposed to be.
So then, as a Christian, is the tool to apply, is this in accordance with nature, or is the tool to apply, is this in accordance with the original design? But if it's in accordance with nature but not the original design, then you need to think about it harder. So it's a complete mind-messing thing, but I want to try and work through it at some level. I'm sure someone else who's much smarter and much more articulate than me has done it before, but I want to give it a go.
Yeah, no, good. I think that's a really interesting question.
Yeah. It'll probably just confuse me more, and I'll have more questions at the end of it.
That's never a bad thing, right? Asking questions is the best thing.
Yeah.
Well, the important thing is that you don't pretend like you know, right?
Exactly. There's nothing. Yeah.
And if you start to think you know something,
then just trust yourself. Yeah. All right. Well, Is there anything else that either of you would like to say about this book?
I'd recommend it to anyone to read because of the bite-sized chunks. I think it's something anyone could pick up and get something out of. And if you find it boring, you put it down and just read another passage another day. I think it's a good little thing.
I tend to agree. Yeah, it's really accessible, really. I think anyone can kind of pick it up and, take a minute to think about it. I think that's true for any of this stuff we've been reading. Thinking about it in a scholarly way, even though we're not scholars, just forcing yourself to sort of stop and think about the content and what you think the intention is has been really amazing. I mean, I think that's true for all the stuff we're reading. It's just because sometimes when you're just reading something, you're reading it, you're not really thinking about it, and it's kind of handy being in those bite-sized chunks because I think it forces you to stop because you've read that chunk, and then you can kind of think about that for a minute before you move on. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, there is another bit we didn't really touch on. I really liked the idea in the book where it says it is but an impression. I think that's a really unique and useful way to think about things because it makes you sort of stop and go, oh, hold on, is this something that actually affects me, or is it an impression in the sense that it's something I've created within my own mind? I think that's a good. I think that's a good line to draw, or at least a good thing to think about when you are reacting.
100%. 100%. I found that so helpful too.
I haven't tried it, but one day when somebody does say something with the intention of upsetting, I'm just going to go. I'm going to say talk. No, I'm going to say talk with the hammer. I'm going to put my hand up and go. You are but an impression.
Here's an experiment. Watch Joe Rogan for 5 minutes and then see if you can modify your impression. You guys have covered it. There's nothing else I want to say about it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, shall we talk about what we're going to read next?
Sure.
Okay. So
yeah, I think we sort of came to the consensus. It'll be Plato's Apology, which I'm happy with.
Yes.
Me too.
Yes. For those of you watching, I will insert a picture here of what. Hang on. Well, that's a cool picture too. But yeah, I'll put a picture there of the book, and I'll put the link for the edition that we're getting in the description. The edition we're getting is the Plato 5 Dialogues. I can't say that first one. Is it Euthyphro? How do you say that?
Euthyphro.
Euthyphro Apology. Is it Crito or Crito?
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Crito.
I'm going to say Crito because like critical. Crito. Meno and Phaedo.
Yeah.
It's the paperback 1 August 2020 edition. Author is Benjamin Jowett by Plato. It's $8.91 Australian for paperback, or you can get the Kindle edition for $1.03 from Amazon online. So yes, that will be the next book. We're going to have a little bit of a break between now and then because I will be doing some family holidays with the family, and that's going to be awesome. But I actually don't know really very much about this book at all. Have either of you read it before?
I've read it a few times.
Okay.
I haven't, but I researched it a little bit just at the end of the Enchiridion, just because of that sort of quote in there.
Ruben, is it much like The Republic in its style, or is it different?
No, it's not. It's different. It's not like a narrative. It's a speech. Well, it's not even a speech. It's a legal defense. It's Socrates' legal defense when they put him on trial. But it's similar in the sense that, it's Socrates, and he speaks the way he speaks, and the dialogue that that he does have in the Republic is very similar to the way he speaks in the Apology, which is interesting because I was reading a little bit, and I know some people commented that how much of this can be sure this is actually Socrates' word, but when you sort of look at the way he talks in that versus what we read in the Republic, I think there's pretty little doubt that it's the same dude. I mean, we know it's the same author, but it's at least within character to what else we've read.
I just had an idea to bring this to pop culture. What we do is we dub the argument over the top of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard footage. Make Johnny Depp Socrates.
Yeah, that would be really hilarious. But the problem is, it's only Socrates' side of the argument. They haven't recorded the other side.
Yeah, so we just dub over the top of Johnny Depp footage.
I just, funnily enough, because I was looking for a copy of the Apology, and I was just reading the reviews, and somebody, I can remember, wrote something and they go, "Man, I'm so glad Socrates is dead. He sounds like such a douche." And that was the only comment.
Wow.
What a comment. Come on. We haven't read the book, but I was like, that is a harsh call.
That's funny. That's really funny. Probably some purple-haired person. Gosh.
That was incorrect because he's not a douche. He's a moocher. It's very different.
Yeah. And he wears Crocs.
That's it. Yeah. Croc wearing mooch. That's it.
So it's similar in that sense. It's nowhere near as it's quite short. But there's plenty of meat in there, and I think we're going to really enjoy it because it's going to tie in so much to the Republic and also what we've just read in the Enchiridion. So it'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll be a good one to tap into for sure.
I also think it's like super relevant for everything that's happening today. But then I suppose we've said that about everything we've read, haven't we?
Yeah. I think so.
The parallels between modern life's been ridiculous through all of this.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
Well, it just goes to show people haven't changed, really.
Yeah.
That's very true. All right. Well, gentlemen, I'm happy with that. If you're happy with that, we can call it. We all have work tomorrow, so.
So the plan is this will be the last episode for a little while.
Yeah. So the plan is I'm going to Europe with my family, and I will put some photos on the Facebook group at some stage because I'll be visiting some pretty cool places, including Rome, which will be awesome. Do you guys have any requests for me to bring back anything philosophy related from Rome?
Wow, yeah.
I'll give that some thought.
I want a sandstone bust of Socrates. Fit that in the bag.
Sandstone? Wouldn't it be marble?
Marble, mate. Sandstone's too Aussie, mate.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Wearing Crocs.
No, I don't know, mate. Surprise us. But I'd love to see you visit some of the places. But well, you're in Rome, not Greece, though, aren't you?
True, but I'm planning to take a copy of Meditations with me.
Right.
Which makes sense, Marcus Aurelius. So I'll get a photo of me holding that book somewhere significant, which would be cool. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the trip. It'll be good.
Well, in any case, what's his name? Epictetus. He was living in Rome for most of his early life, anyway, mate. So
true.
Yeah, we're going to find out if there's any historical sites you can go to for him.
Well, I'll also be going to Pompeii, so I'll get some photos of that too, because that'll give us a little bit of insight to how things looked. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
All right, well, let's wrap it up there. So, for those of you listening, remember the Republic wasn't built in a day, and neither middle-aged men. And we'll see you when we resume for season 3, when we dive back into some Plato. So we'll catch you all then. Thanks very much, guys, for a great time going through this book. and see you when we come back.
See you, boys.
Awesome. See you then.
Bye.